Archaeologists spend their whole lives digging through the ground, trying to find the truth about the people that existed before us. But some discoveries don't give clear answers at all. Sometimes, they leave behind mysteries no one can fully explain. In this video, we're going to dig into some of the most mysterious and unexplained archaeological discoveries ever found, and the disturbing questions that still surround them. So, ready to be shocked? Well, let's dive in. Number 15, the Mayan CR code sculpture. This might sound ridiculous at first, but a strange stone carving sparked massive debate online after people noticed something impossible about its design. The object looked ancient, possibly Mayan, but the pattern carved across its surface looked disturbingly similar to a CR code. Almost instantly, the images spread everywhere. Some people became convinced the carving pointed toward forgotten knowledge or advanced symbolism somehow preserved for centuries. Others saw something far less mysterious. To skeptics, the object looked more like a modern publicity stunt designed to exploit curiosity and conspiracy theories. The biggest problem for believers remains painfully obvious. QR codes were created in the 1990s for tracking industrial products, not by ancient civilizations in Mesoamerica. Even so, the fascination surrounding the sculpture never truly disappeared because the code itself refuses to explain anything. People repeatedly tried scanning it, hoping some hidden message would finally appear, but nothing ever worked. Strangely enough, that failure only pushed the mystery even further for those convinced the carving hides some deeper meaning. Whether ancient relic or carefully crafted hoax, the sculpture continues to exist somewhere between archaeology and imagination. Number 14. The Calaveras Skull. In 1866, miners working in Calaveras County during the California Gold Rush claimed they had discovered a human skull buried deep inside ancient gold-bearing gravels. The location immediately created controversy because the geological layer appeared far older than any accepted timeline for human presence in North America. Josiah Whitney, the state geologist of California, supported the discovery and argued that the skull represented extremely ancient humanity in the Americas. If true, it would have completely changed existing ideas about human history on the continent. But problems appeared almost immediately. The skull looked relatively modern and showed features consistent with a recent Native American burial rather than an ancient fossilized human ancestor. Later investigations suggested the skull may have been planted as part of a mining camp prank, something not unusual during the gold rush period. The skull itself still exists in museum collections today, but its scientific credibility collapsed long ago. The object survived, but the original claims surrounding it slowly disappeared from serious archaeology. Number 13. The Picatrix Manuscript. Few ancient books carry a reputation as dark as the Picatrix. The manuscript is part astrology, part occult ritual, and part philosophical nightmare. Written originally in Arabic sometime around the 10th or 11th century, the text eventually spread into Europe after being translated into Latin, where it gained a reputation as one of the most dangerous magical books ever created. The pages describe rituals capable of influencing minds, summoning spiritual forces, manipulating luck, and even extending life itself. Some ceremonies require bizarre ingredients like blood, brain matter, animal organs, and narcotic substances. Medieval scholars copied the text secretly, often hiding it from religious authorities who considered the material deeply forbidden. What makes the Picatrix disturbing is not simply the rituals themselves, but the confidence with which they are described. The author writes as though these practices truly worked. Historians still debate where much of the knowledge originated. Some passages seem connected to older Egyptian, Persian, and Mesopotamian traditions now mostly lost to time. Centuries later, the manuscript still carries an atmosphere people find hard to explain rationally. Number 12. The magnetized potbelly statues. Ancient people may not have understood science the way we do today, But sometimes their creations hint at knowledge that feels super advanced. Deep in Guatemala, archaeologists discovered enormous stone sculptures with strange magnetic properties hidden inside them. The statues, often called potbelly figures, were carved centuries before modern understanding of magnetism even existed. What shocked researchers was the placement of the magnetic points. The strongest magnetic fields appeared on the statues' foreheads, cheeks, stomachs, and navels. The positioning looked intentional, almost symbolic. Scientists believe the stone became magnetized after being struck by lightning long before the sculptures were carved. Somehow, ancient craftsmen identified those invisible magnetic spots and deliberately built their artwork around them. Many of the statues represent overweight human figures linked to elite families or powerful ancestors. Some rise over 6 feet tall, staring outward with blank expressions frozen in stone. Archaeologists suspect the magnetic force may have symbolized spiritual energy or supernatural authority. But as we always say, the truth is buried in history. Number 11. The ancient Andean metal mask. Heavy rainstorms in the Andes sometimes uncover more than broken earth and loose stone. In 2005, after violent flooding swept away layers of mud in Argentina, archaeologists stumbled upon a thin metal object buried beneath the surface. What they uncovered became one of the oldest known metal artifacts ever found in South America. The object was a hammered copper mask shaped to fit a human face. Eye holes, breathing gaps, and small openings near the edges showed it was once worn by someone during life or death. Scientists later dated the mask to around 3,000 years old, making it far older than many expected for metalwork in the region. Nearby excavations uncovered human remains, though only one skeleton carried green copper stains across the skull. That detail suggests the individual may have been buried while wearing the mask itself. No similar object has ever been discovered nearby, leaving researchers unsure whether it belonged to a forgotten ritual, an elite burial tradition, or something even more unusual. Thousands of years later, the face behind the mask remains completely unknown. Number 10. Animal mummies and the wooden pharaoh of Abydos. Ancient Egypt buried its kings with treasure, gold, and sacred objects. But inside a hidden chamber beneath the sands of Abydos, archaeologists stumbled upon something far stranger. Packed tightly together were the remains of more than 80 animals, goats, cats, dogs, sheep. All were carefully mummified nearly 3,300 years ago during the reign of Pharaoh Seti I. Their linen wrappings vanished long ago, destroyed by centuries of decay, yet the bodies remained. The discovery already felt super chilling, but another object made the sight even more mysterious. Resting nearby was a rare wooden statue of an unknown pharaoh. Wood rarely survives Egypt's brutal passage of time, which is exactly why the find shocked archaeologists. Mud and even termite droppings accidentally preserved parts of it. Some researchers believe the narrow waist suggests the statue may depict Hatshepsut. Others disagree completely. No tomb connected to the animals has ever been found, which leaves one uncomfortable possibility behind. Someone important may still be buried nearby beneath the desert itself. Number 9. Mungo Man. In 1974, erosion near Lake Mungo in New South Wales exposed ancient human remains later identified as Mungo Man. The burial was dated to roughly 42,000 years ago, making it one of the oldest known human burials ever discovered in Australia. The remains showed evidence of ceremonial treatment, including the use of red ochre placed around the body during burial. That detail became one of the strongest pieces of evidence showing that complex ritual behavior already existed in Ice Age Australia tens of thousands of years ago. The surrounding Lake Mungo region also preserved hearths, stone tools, and traces of long-term human occupation connected to the ancient Willandra Lakes system. For decades, the remains stayed inside scientific institutions where researchers continued studying them. But debates surrounding repatriation and indigenous cultural authority slowly changed the future of the discovery. In 2017, Mungo Man was officially returned to traditional owners and later reburied. Scientific access ended, leaving photographs, casts, and earlier research records as the primary surviving evidence. Number 8. The Kachina Bridge Petroglyph. Etched into the rock near Kachina Bridge in Utah sits a carving that has triggered arguments for decades. At first, the figure appears simple, but depending on who is looking at it, the image becomes something entirely different. Some people think it resembles a long-necked dinosaur, possibly a sauropod. Others see nothing more than an abstract shape or perhaps a snake worn down by time. Creationists often point to the carving as proof that humans and dinosaurs once lived together. Scientists strongly reject that claim, arguing the shape has been exaggerated by imagination and natural staining around the rock surface. According to archaeologists, the so-called legs of the dinosaur are likely mineral marks created long after the original carving was made. Still, the debate never disappears. The petroglyph itself is undeniably ancient, left behind by Native American cultures thousands of years ago. What makes it linger in people's minds is how easily the human brain searches for meaning in old symbols. It's just strange. Number 7. The Tel Brak Eye Idols. Buried beneath the ruins of ancient Tel Brak in Syria, archaeologists uncovered hundreds of small stone figures unlike anything found anywhere else in the ancient world. Their bodies were simple and almost unfinished, but the eyes dominated everything. Large, hollow, unblinking eyes stretched across their faces in a way that still feels deeply unsettling today. The idols were discovered inside what became known as the Eye Temple, a religious structure dating back more than 4,000 years. Most of the figures were carved from alabaster and varied in size from a few inches to nearly a foot tall. Some stood alone while others appeared grouped together like silent watchers frozen in stone. Nobody knows exactly what they represented. The most accepted theory suggests the oversized eyes symbolized constant attention toward the gods, with worshippers leaving the idols behind as offerings inside the temple. But there is something strangely unnatural about them. Their expressions feel empty yet alert at the same time. Even now, many people who see the statues for the first time describe the same reaction. They're scary. Number 6. The Bosnian Stone Sphere. Hidden within the forests near Zavadovi in Bosnia lies one of Europe's largest stone spheres, and almost nobody agrees on what it really is. The massive object was uncovered partially buried in a hillside by amateur archaeologist Semir Osmanagi, a man already surrounded by controversy because of his claims about ancient pyramids in Bosnia. That only made the discovery even more divisive. The sphere measures roughly 5 feet across and weighs an estimated 30 tons. Its reddish surface suggests a high iron content, something Osmanagi believes supports the theory that ancient people shaped it intentionally. According to him, the sphere could be evidence of a forgotten civilization with advanced knowledge lost long before recorded history. Professional geologists strongly disagree. Most argue that the object formed naturally through mineral accumulation and chemical weathering inside sedimentary rock. Yet even some skeptics admit the sphere's appearance is unusually striking. Sitting alone within the forest, half emerging from the earth, it carries the strange feeling of something unfinished. Number 5. The Tabun Woman of Mount Carmel. During excavations inside Tabun Cave on Mount Carmel in the 1930s, archaeologists uncovered a nearly complete skeleton, later identified as the Tabun Woman. The remains were discovered in one of the most important prehistoric migration corridors connecting Africa, Asia, and Europe. Before the skeleton was removed, excavation photographs documented the exact position of the bones inside the cave sediment. Those photographs later became extremely important because the original burial context disappeared once excavation began. Researchers generally classify the skeleton as either a Neanderthal or a closely related Levantine human population. Dating estimates vary widely, with some placing the remains at more than 100,000 years old. The uncertainty matters because the Levant was one of the few regions where Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens existed within overlapping time periods. The bones themselves survived in museum collections and continued to be studied for decades. But the original relationship between the body, the surrounding sediment, and the burial position could never be reconstructed after removal from the cave floor. So, in short, it's still a mystery. Number 4. Norun Tepe. Well, Norun Tepe looks like nothing more than a dry hill in eastern Turkey. But beneath it, archaeologists uncovered a settlement that existed for thousands of years before suddenly ending. In 1968, German archaeologist Harald Hauptmann began excavating the site near the Euphrates River after unusual remains were spotted there. The deeper the excavation went, the stranger and weirder the discoveries became. Copper smelting furnaces, burned clay, metal artifacts, traces of antimony buried in the soil. The settlement appeared far more advanced than expected for its age. Some researchers believe large-scale metal production was already happening there long before major empires controlled the region. More than 40 occupation layers were uncovered, stretching back to around 4000 B. Then, the site was destroyed by a massive fire. After that, the settlement was never rebuilt. Over time, the entire place vanished beneath the earth, leaving behind only the remains of a civilization that once thrived there. Number 3. The Soloman Ngandong Skulls. Between 1931 and 1933, excavations along the Solo River in central Java uncovered a group of ancient skulls that later became known as the Ngandong Skulls. The site produced 12 cranial vaults and 2 tibia bones connected to a late population of Homo erectus. What made the discovery unusual was the anatomy of the skulls themselves. They carried thick cranial bones, strong brow ridges, and elongated skull shapes typical of Homo erectus. Yet their brain size overlapped with the lower range of modern humans. Researchers later concluded these individuals may have survived until around 100,000 years ago, making them one of the last known Homo erectus populations anywhere on Earth. Unlike the Peking man fossils, the Ngandong skulls were not physically lost. The real problem came from missing field documentation and disrupted excavation records caused by war and political instability during the 20th century. Well, the fossils survived in museum collections, but not the details. Number 2. The sunken forest of Wales. Storms along the Welsh coast found something no one expected to see. Beneath the waves, buried under layers of mud and peat, stood the remains of an ancient forest. Blackened tree stumps stretched across the shoreline like the skeleton of a forgotten world. Oak, pine, birch, and alder trees still remained rooted in place after 5,000 years beneath the sea. The discovery reignited old Welsh legends about Contra Gwaelod, a drowned kingdom said to have once existed where the ocean now stands. According to folklore, fertile land, villages, and farms once covered the region before the sea swallowed everything in a single disaster. Most historians dismissed the story as myth for generations. Then the forest appeared. Even stranger, archaeologists also found traces of an old wooden walkway nearby, proof that people once lived there before the coastline vanished underwater. Nobody knows exactly how quickly the flooding happened. Rising sea levels, violent storms, or sudden geological collapse all remain possible. Number 1. The Nea Paphos Palindrome Amulet. During excavations in the ancient city of Nea Paphos in Cyprus, archaeologists found a small amulet carrying an inscription unlike almost anything found from its time period. The object itself looked ordinary at first. Then, experts realized the writing formed a perfect palindrome, reading the same backward as it did forward. The amulet is around 1500 years old and contains 59 Greek letters carefully arranged into a mysterious phrase. Translated roughly into English, the text speaks of a hidden name connected to a lion and a sacred shrine. Tiny carved figures decorate the reverse side, including what appears to be a wrapped Egyptian mummy. The imagery suggests the creator may have blended influences from Greek, Egyptian, and early mystical traditions into a single protective object. Amulets during that era were believed to shield people from sickness, curses, and unseen dangers. That alone gives the inscription an eerie feeling. The words were likely meant as more than decoration. Well, that's all from us. We hope you found this video interesting. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe. We'll see you soon.